Let's get started then. So welcome everybody to our 2022 and 2023 budget training session. This session's been developed to help our treasurers understand the budgeting process. So what we'll be doing is talking about what's new to the process, and I'll give a bit of a presentation on that. And then Ram's going to take us step by step through the process and give us a bit of a live demo of how to complete your budgets and show some example budgets. For my part of the presentation, I'll be talking about, increasing collaboration through a couple of new steps in our planning processes. For those who haven't seen me before, there's me in action at a convention prior to the pandemic. I'm a little bit fatter now, probably a bit paler from being sat in front of a computer for the last 2 years. And there's Ram as well, who is our new interim treasurer of the finance committee. And Ram will be talking us through the kind of budget submission process and giving a bit of a demo. I'm just going to pause for a moment. There's a few more people trying to join the meeting, so just let them in. And I'll get started. So those of you who attended convention back in January would have seen me kind of go through this in some detail. Some of the challenges that we have as an organisation with collaborating. So I'm not going to go into the same level of detail, but I just give you a kind of bit of an overview. So really the kind of challenges around collaboration sometimes mean that the impact that we have from the scale that we have as an organisation isn't always realised. And so the kind of breadth of expertise to learn from each other and having that collective impact just doesn't always kind of work out quite as it should do. And so we identified some of those kind of fundamental challenges as being around issues with kind of localized planning. So there's lots of silos, whether that's silos within BCS as an organisation or whether that's silos across our branch and member groups. We've struggled with kind of having a communication platform. So there hasn't really been a way that member groups are able to easily collaborate with each other. And also just kind of navigating BCS is sometimes a bit of a challenge. I've been here nearly 15 years, so I can just about work my way around the organisation. But for many of you who have either recently been appointed to chair or haven't kind of worked closely with the organisation, then I can see it's quite a difficult thing to navigate on face value. But hopefully we've changed some of those things. I think over the pandemic, we've developed a kind of a more transparent strategy, which members have helped to develop. And they're actually supporting with the implementation. We have that new collaboration tool. So we've got a new online community, community.bcs.org. If you haven't had a look, go on there and take a look. And that's been developed to help members kind of share their expertise, to get advice from each other and build their network. And I think through the pandemic, we've also kind of shone a light on some of the great collaboration which does take place between specialist groups and branches. So I remember right at the start, our law SG and our software testing groups were exploring things like test and trace and having joint events, looking at some of the legal challenges around it. But we've also seen kind of specialist groups connecting to local branches to deliver presentations, and also seen branches kind of group up regionally to support each other during what's been quite a difficult time working remotely. And we're also seeing kind of a major utilisation of our experts in our community. So there's a lot more people now contributing to our external voice. Our policy and PR team have been going around to individual member groups and trying to find out what expertise they can bring to the organisation and supporting them in how they kind of present that expertise. So there's been quite a lot of change. And so the bleakness of the challenges seem to have kind of subsided with kind of some of the work which has taken place over the pandemic. And as you're probably thinking now, what's this got to do with the budget processes? Really it's about us trying to think about how we can better utilise our collaboration. And we've added some additional steps to that budget process, allowing us to use the strategy as a framework to identify member groups' focus areas and how you can cross over and support each other. The strategy, for those who haven't attended a convention recently or haven't had a chance to read our newsletters, is up on here. So here's our kind of strategic pillars. The 4 pillars there: membership is the overarching one, recognising that our members are the lifeblood of our community. And the focus of membership is promoting a diverse community of professionals and supporting them to gain skills, expertise, connections that they need to help shape their career and our collective digital future. So supporting that membership pillar, we have inspiration. So that's encouraging the next generation of IT professionals and those just entering the profession and supporting them as they grow their careers. Continually supporting each other with progression. So that's about CPD. And then also our kind of influence. So the collective impact we have as a membership organisation to influence industry and government and education and so on. So some of you would have attended our deep dives on these sessions. If you haven't, don't worry. There's a link available that I'll put in the chat at the end of this session, so you can look at a bit more detail. And I stress look at it because it's going to be, as we're using this as a framework for how we kind of pull together all our activities to make it easier to collaborate across groups. So understanding the strategies become more and more important. So some of the new steps that we're going to be introducing. The first stage is incorporating kind of a straw man high-level program planning as part of the budget submission process. And I'll go into a bit more detail of that in a moment. But what we understand is clearly we're 6 months ahead of the start of a new program year. So when we say straw man, things don't need to be finalized at this point. It's just to give an indication of the types of things that you do. And that'll help me and Ram when we go through the review of budgets to understand where to allocate money. And then as we enter kind of May, August, we'll be looking to, between May and August, to share all these plans that you've shared with us centrally, so that as individual member groups, you're able to look at each other's plans and identify those options for collaboration, and then start to kind of finalize your program year plan as you get into September. So the first stage, the kind of the planning phase, incorporating a high-level program year plan. As I say, it's about using the strategy as a framework and identifying what tasks, what activities you do, and applying those to our strategic pillars, and then also identifying kind of priority themes for you as groups, so that you can just share amongst, you kind of collaborate, identify if there's a specialist group you might be working in a particular area that you kind of really want to get involved with. Having those kind of high level plans will make it a lot easier for us to do that. So it's really, as an outcome we're looking for from this, is information related to initial plans and member groups for 22-23 are shared centrally in a common format. So again, that's the strategy being used as a framework to create that common format. And then that information will be used to help provide context to budget submissions, because me and Ram at the moment, all we really have is a list of numbers. So providing that kind of context of what you do as groups would be really important to that kind of funding allocation. Now, I'm just going to quickly show you the form as well, so hopefully allay any fears that we're introducing loads of new planning processes here. It's quite a simple form to complete, so I'll just share that with you. Just taking a moment or so for it to load. Am I sharing that with you, Ram?
Yep, all fine.
Great. So the cover sheet just asks you to provide just some overview information about your branch or specialist group. And in here, we're also asking that you detail kind of your membership count, so we can see the kind of scale that you have as a group. And that's available to you as a result. You can find out that number using the member group counts dashboard, and that link's available to you on the form. We'll want to find out who the kind of collaboration lead is in your group. So if other groups want to collaborate, you a named individual who's contactable to support that collaboration. And then just a high level view of projected income and projected expenditure, just so it's really easy for me and Ram to kind of pick up when we're doing the budget reviews, kind of what are the numbers that are sitting. We've got 4 boxes here for each of the strategic pillars, and that will just ask you to, we'll just be asking you just to kind of enter kind of details around what your activities are and how they support those strategic pillar goals. There's a little bit of a description of each of those strategic pillar goals there. There's a list of our strategic priority themes. So these have been picked up through previous membership surveys around what our members want us to be talking about, and have been used by our policy team as focus areas for our external voice activity. So just identifying on here the kind of topics which you'll be discussing in your program year, perhaps some rationale if you've got it at this stage, but also for you to identify any other priority themes which aren't in our currently in our strategic priorities that you would like to talk about as a group. And again, that's really about helping to collaborate. So it will mean throughout the year, you'll be able to identify which groups are talking about which topics, and then hopefully you'll kind of find opportunities to work with others. And then finally, just asking you to think about, or just to tell us a bit more about the types of activities that you'll be conducting. So not the content of the activity, but more whether you're planning to hold physical events, hybrid events. Is it going to be purely networking kind of things you're going to do? Do you award things like student prizes? And any other kind of annual events that you hold year on year as a member group. And so that will just give us a nice overview of the types of activities that you conduct. And again, that will be shareable with other member groups. For international sections, we're also just asking for a little bit extra information just on kind of any fixed costs that they have. So those who aren't familiar with our sections, they're legal entities in each of their individual countries. And so there are some fixed costs associated with those groups. And so what we're trying to do is just understand what the fixed costs are, and then what money is being used to support kind of members and membership engagement. Right, so that's a form. And so again, in this kind of stage one, as part of your budget submission, it's kind of a straw man contribution we're looking for. And that will really help me and Ram in the short term, but it'll also give you a basis to start collaborating once we get past the budget review processes and get into kind of May. And you as a group can groups can kind of work together and identify where there's crossovers. So if I just stop sharing that spreadsheet. And I'll just come back to my presentation. Ram, is it up again? Am I sharing it? Yeah, I've got a question from Charlie. Charlie, would you like to?
Okay, hi guys, thanks. So that sheet is a planning sheet, which is great, you know. So are you going to go on to talk about the actual numbers section in a bit then? Or have I just jumped in too early?
Yeah. So Ram's going to take over in just a moment.
Okay, thanks. I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Thank you. So once we've kind of got that planning sheet submitted, the next stage is then, following the budget reviews, is then just to start collaborating as a group and start collaborating across groups, and to start to build a master plan. And the master plan will be available and accessible to all member groups, so you can see easily on one spreadsheet the types of things that other groups will be up to and opportunities for collaboration. But obviously, as you say, kind of, you know, we're working quite in advance at the start of the program year, so there'll be kind of iterations of that. So by the time we get to September, we'll be looking for a bit more of a kind of final view of what that is, and that will really be, you know, that's only really us trying to help you with opportunities to collaborate with each other. So you're only really going to get as much as you're only going to get as much output as you put into that. So if you're not looking to collaborate, you don't put much information in there, you're unlikely to find opportunities to collaborate. And we've got another question from Ed, so I'll just pass back over to Ed. Ed,
yeah, sorry about that. Basically, I'm just pointing out that sort of obvious omission, it seems to me, on your list of subjects, strategic subjects around cybersecurity.
So I'm not on there. Let's have a look.
I mean, we are really majoring and pushing on cybersec in Shropshire, and you just haven't got it on there. And it is such a huge subject.
John, can I address this, if you don't mind?
Yeah, please do, Ram. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Ed, for bringing it to our notice. See, what you have seen is based on the information that the head office has collected from the different events which have taken place in recent past. However, if this is not there, it's good to know. If you see in the bottom, there is one section called Other.
Yeah.
So you can add it there, and we will include that in our regular sheet.
Yeah, the additional point there is, I guess, that cybersecurity kind of cross-cutting across all of these themes, because if you look at here, there's quite a lot of kind of sectoral kind of pieces of work here, and so clearly within artificial intelligence, cybersecurity will play a role in there. If we think about, future of cyber security, then making sure we have inclusive, wide representation from diverse group of professionals is important in understanding cybersecurity. So I think there's a bit of a cross-cutting thing here, but I think if you've got a particular theme and you want to pull that out, then just put that in the other.
I mean, just as an example, we've joined the Cyber Resilience Centre initiative, which is tied into the police and government, and there doesn't seem to be a tie-up with the BCS with that. So I think they're absolute, as a vertical, not a horizontal. This needs to be absolutely recognised. So that's why I'm sort of being a bit vocal about it.
Yeah, no, please do. So what we can do is Marie's on the call, so she'll kind of register that. And it'll be quite easy. This is just a Word document, so we can just update the template. I think if there's enough support, but it looks like in the chat that quite a few groups have mentioned they'd like to see it on there. So yeah, we can do that.
Thanks.
And thanks, Ed, for bringing this to our notice. See, the link that John has shared with you is a live link. So the feedback that you are sharing with us, we will make that change, and you will all be able to submit the form using this live link. So the update will happen sooner than later. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
So that's it really for the kind of the planning and collaboration part. And so the next stage of this presentation is to kind of pass over to Ram to kind of go into the overall budget planning processes and how to complete budget submissions. And so we'll move on. Before we do so, is there any kind of extra questions you'd like to ask about the new kind of planning sheet at all? Great, I'll take silent as assent and pass back over to you, Ram. So I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Let me share. So can you see my screen, John?
I can see your emails at the moment.
Sure, thank you. So welcome to this session. This is my first session as interim chair, and I will be taking it to the budget submission process. So I am interim chair since December 2021, and this is my first slide. So there are basic things that is expected from each of the member groups or the specialist groups, member or specialist groups. First is obtain a clear understanding of funds. Obtain a clear understanding of funds required and for what purpose. Now, why is it important? Because, so you can imagine there are more than 100 groups and specialist groups, membership and specialist groups within and outside of United Kingdom. And if we do not have the accurate picture from you all, then allocation of funds can be a real big challenge. And therefore, more accurate information you provide, better it will be for us to allocate the funds. Although we are very generous in terms of allocating the funds, subject to the guidance from the head office, the finance, and the governance. However, at the treasurer level or at a branch or specialist group level, it's absolute essential to obtain a clear understanding of funds required and for what purpose. Okay, and calculate overall level of funding required for next year. So you should think of all the different kinds of events which you are going to organize, be it conference, be it just a talk on a given subject, or be it some competition. Just list all those things out in consultation with your committee, and then see how much money do you need, or how much money you are going to generate, and then put those figures in as accurate as possible with no contingency built in. Okay, this is again important based on the information that you may have now. See, it's possible that you may not envisage a particular event while you are submitting a bid, but during the financial year, you may think of organizing hackathon, for example, and you have not listed it there. It is fine, but you should then submit the SFR. So whatever the information you have as of the time at the time of submitting this bid, you should provide that in. You should aim to show timing of spend as far as possible. I will cover this little more in detail in the demo. Indicate any potential spend that is not yet confirmed. Now, this bit is important. For example, you are potentially thinking of having a conference. Okay, and this conference is subject to pandemic situation. So you should highlight that in your bid. Ensure funding is appropriate and adequate to support the aims of BCS. When it comes to aims of BCS, it's basically the 4 pillars that John just explained to all of us. And it should be appropriate to achieve the objectives that you may decide. We are not deciding the objectives, but you are deciding the objectives for the branch or specialist group. And once you have asked for money, try and spend as much as you can, because there have been instances where the allocation has been, say, 100. But at the end of the year, when we look at the statement of the branch or specialist group, the spend is only not even 10. Okay. Now, in all good faith, that £100 was allocated to a branch or specialist group, but only 10 was spent. The 90 was not utilized. Until the branch or specialist group would instruct the head office to take that money back, it still remains in the account of the branch or specialist group. So ideally, the branch or specialist group should use those funds for the purposes which you have listed. But if you think that you are not going to spend that money by, say, April timeframe, March-April timeframe, you should politely inform the head office or to your membership group coordinator that this money should be taken back. Again, before taking this action, you should consult your committee and your chairman. Okay, so this is the basic requirement that we would envisage. This is the timeline that we have. So February is when we have the this training session as a Treasurer's Day. And for the comfort of the treasurers, we have split this into 2 parts. This session taking place now, and another session is scheduled from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. today. And we encourage as many treasurers to participate as possible. I saw the last number as 33, and that's a good number. Thanks for your time today. Then 31st of March is the deadline for submitting the budget bids in 2 parts. One, the budget itself, and second, the cover sheet with the 4 pillars. Then in April, it will be the initial scrutiny and evaluation. If there are any queries, then they'll come back to you and ask you those questions. And then it will be evaluated in April. Then it will go to the trustee board and the community board for their approval. and that process takes place between May to August, and the frequency of the community board or trustee board is much less than that for the finance committee. Finance committee meets once every month, whereas the community board and the trustee board is every quarter, I think. And the funds will be allocated latest by August, for all of you to start using those funds from September. So that's the timeline. And looking to this timeline, we start this process much early on. Now, budget pack was sent to all of you on 14th of February 2022. I will open that email and then start working on from there. Okay, so this was the email sent to you, and in this, if you see, there is a link provided. So budget strategy page, and we go down. If you have any questions, you can either put that in the chat, or can raise hand, and John is keeping an eye, and he will ask the question. So on this, you have the budget template. So I've gone from the link of the email and I have reached here. Okay. So here you need to select your branch or specialist group. It should appear with your branch or specialist name. If it doesn't, please get in touch with the branch coordinator. They will do the needful for you. Now, in the this Excel sheet, you will find a couple of tabs. Okay, so this is the budget request, then the potential additional funding, annual events if you have any, and you can add as many tabs as you wish. You have the FAQs. FAQs are not updated at the moment. Sorry about that. So let's look at the main part of the Excel sheet. So you can start filling it from here. Your income side. Now this income can be from number of sources. Either you are organizing a conference, or you are organizing a chargeable event, or you are organizing hackathon or any other competition, then you are likely to have the income from the participants. Or sometimes you may organize a workshop or a short training, and you may charge for those services. So that can become your income, and you can list down when is the event going to take place. So that's based on the month you can decide. And then what is the source of income? You can put that in the respective column. Now it's possible that you may put in the event for October 2022. However, that event may not take place in October 2022. Instead, it may be in February 23. It is fine, as long as that event is taking place and it is as you have put in here. It is fine within that year. Okay, and you can just put the figures here based on your thought process. Suppose you are organizing an event, and in that event you are expecting 50 people to participate, each contributing 50 pounds. So that's 2,500 pounds. So you can put that 2,500 pounds here. Okay, and the further narration you can put in the cover sheet or justification that you wish to give. You can also give additional information on the additional sheets as to how the calculation you have made. Okay, what is important is the thought process which has gone into putting the figure. Okay. And then you need to look at the expenditure part. Now expenditure can be in two parts. one, it could be for a specific event, and second, it could be business as usual, which means your one is a special event such as the conference or a major event for which you have the revenue. For that, you can have either the separate expenditure on the similar lines, or you can add all of that in this section. Okay, you can read all the different cost heads here that you can use for estimating the expenditure. Again, the ballpark figures are important here, but as accurate as possible, as I said earlier on. They can be spent throughout the financial year, but they may not be as you would put the numbers here. Okay. So if you have put in some figure for November, but that expenditure is not taking place in November and instead is taking place in October, it is still fine. As long as it is within the overall allocated budget, it's all fine throughout the financial year. So this is, when you start putting the figures, the calculations will be done automatically. Then you have the additional codes. If you have any other incomes, then you can specify it here, and all the details are given there. You don't need to fill in here. It's for the head office to put in the comments based on the numbers that you put and the information that you provide. Any questions on this budget request side? I take.
Sorry, Ram. Yeah, we haven't had any questions about that. We've had a couple of people bring up that they might not have the email yet. Oh, actually, Edward put his hand up. So I don't know if it's that a new hand, Edward.
Hi, Ed.
Hi, I'm on mute. Sorry. I was just really curious as a general question, probably more towards branches. How many branches are actually generating income, per se? Because obviously our strategy is the way we generate income is basically to push for increased membership. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, so I mean, budgeted income from branches is quite small. So in the previous financial year, it was about £3,000 from branches, whereas if you look at specialist groups, it's closer to £100,000.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also have another question from, I think Margaret Ross has a question as well.
Well, it's two parts, actually. On your last bit on the form, you've got about the student prizes for the universities. Since the lockdown, with some new universities have come up, we were restricted to 3, I think it was, per branch. Can we actually bring in some of the other universities we've got within a branch? So the second point was, it was more actually a comment. At this moment, depending on the virus, we don't know if we're going to be running hybrid or physical events. We don't know that, in fact, whether the universities will let us use their facilities come the autumn, and which is at low cost, or whether if we're running physical, we'll have to go to hotels, which will be very expensive. How do we handle this? Thank you.
Yeah, I can take that one, Ram, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got a plan for the best case scenario on this one now that hopefully, fingers crossed, we're kind of exiting the pandemic. I think anything which sees a kind of increase to your cost base, that's kind of what the SFR supplementary funding process is there for. So if you're having to request additional funding because your normal university facilities are no longer available and you need to put on an event at a hotel or something like that, then yeah, that's where you'd ask for additional funding.
Certainly at the moment, we're getting a comment that the universities we use, no thank you, we're restricting to your own students. So yeah. At this moment, if we went in for hybrid, we would have to go to a hotel, or physical would have to go to a hotel.
Yeah, so maybe if you're aware of that position at the moment, you might want to just kind of factor in a couple of events which might be in a hotel. But I would say, remember, we're kind of 6 months away from September at the moment, and that's a new, obviously, term time, university year, and hopefully that position would have changed. But yeah, I mean, I think anytime you need additional funding for the year, circumstances change. That's exactly why we've got the supplementary funding request process, so funds are available to member groups.
Thank you. So we worked for positive, we could do physical and take the most realistic view at the moment, what we'll have to do and what it's likely to be. In our case, it would be probably hotels. But anyway, thank you very much.
And the other question that you asked about the student prices, at corporate level, the decision has been made that all the current student prices will be honored, but no new student prices will be entertained. So the student prices which you are currently awarding every year, you please continue doing that and reflect those student price money in the budget bids that you will be submitting. But please do not add any new, because the head office maintains that record of which universities are giving the student prices.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You had another question there from Charlie as well, Ram.
Sorry?
You got another question from Charlie, I think?
Yeah, sorry, Charlie.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's probably not directly related, but I'd be interested to understand, with what is a newish anyway, and a certainly more consistent approach, what the situation is regarding funding and budgeting for student chapters. So I don't want to take up today's thing, because this isn't about a student chapter thing, but I'm really quite keen to understand that, because it's a bit of work that we've been struggling with in our catchment area for some months and years.
Okay, should we follow? I mean, I've got a list of things to follow up with you, Charlie, so should I pick that up?
Okay, brilliant, thanks.
Great.
Any further questions?
I don't think we are. I think you've made good progress there.
Thank you. So if you are going to ask for a potential additional funding for the year, for a special event, etc., then you need to provide the additional information here, and they should be basically supporting the 4 pillars that you would be submitting, and all the information that you will provide, we will consider that, and then allocate the funding, either as part of the budget itself, or we'll keep some provision in the pot for the special funding requests. Now, everything that you put here, potential additional funding, you should submit the SFR closer to the actual event being planned. And as far as SFR is concerned, you should submit at least 8 weeks before the proposed event. You may wonder why. So one reason is we want the event to be publicized well, and that if it is not publicized well, then all the efforts potentially can go in vain. And if you want to get the approval from the finance committee, it meets once every month. So if you submit the application 8 weeks in advance, then at least 4 to 6 weeks in advance, you'll get the approval or the decision, and then you will have sufficient time to publicize the event and make it successful. Sometimes if you have planned an event, you announce the event, date is there, people start registering, and for some reason the event is the funding is not approved. Okay, then what do you do with the event? It's not a healthy sign. You carry the reputational risk for the branch or specialist group. So 8 weeks is what you should aim for, but unforeseen circumstances can be there, and if you put up the request at the last minute on some occasions, yes, we will consider it favorably. Also, if the request is for up to £1,500, and if the finance committee is not scheduled to meet soon, then the chair of the finance committee can get in touch with the branch or specialist group and discuss the SFR, and can use the authority to approve or amend the request and make the decision. And then the chairman can take it to the finance committee for the formal approval. So as finance committee and as BCS head office, we want to support all of you as much as we can. But as John said earlier on, the collaborative approach is what we are aiming to achieve. And these are some of the measures that we have already put in place to improve the collaboration. And also the method to improve it further is if you submit the SFR 8 weeks in advance.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Just pick up on Margaret's earlier question. So when you talk about potential risk that you may not be able to meet at the university, and there might be additional funding required for the hotel, the potential additional funding sheet is probably where you're best to kind of add in a couple of hotel costs if you have to take that route.
And this is another part, which is the regular, annual, and chargeable events. Okay, so some of the branches or specialist groups have the annual conferences. So if you have those activities happening for a number of years, then you can use this tab, and you can have as many tabs as you wish for that, and to list all the events that you are planning. And we will look at each of these and allocate the funds accordingly. And this is very straightforward. What is the purpose? I just put the brief description on that, and then I'll provide the figures. Okay. As far as possible, try to maintain some difference between the charges for the BCS members and non-BCS members. Okay, the non-BCS members should be charged more than the BCS members. This can also help you to get the memberships. Any questions on the sheet?
No current questions. Let's see. Oh, Charlie's got a question for us.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah, sorry guys, just on that. So the annual events breakdown, it suggests that's where you're charging for events.
Yeah.
But if you got an annual event where you're not charging, do you want that in this section, or do you want it in the standard budget request?
That you should put in the standard budget request.
Right. Okay.
Say all the income related figures that you get either here or here. Okay. They will ultimately come up on the top section here.
So yeah, so we run and support a number of events, but we don't receive any income.
Yeah, it's
so
fine.
I suppose really it's kind of sponsorship, to be honest. I guess.
Yeah. So you can put the figures here for sponsorship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would be expenditure, wouldn't it, rather than income?
No, if there's a sponsorship, then another organization is sponsoring the event.
Yes.
Sponsorship can work two ways.
Yes, of course.
Sponsorship can work in two ways. One is that the external organization is sponsoring your event.
Yeah.
The other way it can be that BCS is sponsoring a particular event.
Yes.
If it is the BCS sponsoring the event, then that will come here in the expenditure.
Okay. Understood.
Okay.
That's clear. So annual and CHG event breakdown is only for when there's income.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions?
We've got Edward's got a question for you as well.
Yeah. Ed.
Yeah, sorry, just a very quick one. Are you actually expecting us sort of quietly to push for more charging on events as a strategy at branch level?
Well, we are not saying that. It's a branch level or specialist group level decision.
Okay.
It is encouraged. It is encouraged that the branch or specialist group should organize the chargeable events, but it is not mandatory.
I mentioned that because obviously the first goals for us is visibility and relevance of BCS in the IT sector. And so obviously we need to get as many people along as possible. And then through that, hopefully it's basically getting them to join up as members. So that's why I just mentioned it.
Yeah, I think the added consideration would just be if there's considerable expenditure against a particular event, that you would kind of look to kind of get that as cost neutral as possible, either through kind of a sponsorship or through delegate registration. But if it's, you know, a kind of, you know, one of the monthly member group events where it's, you know, you're talking about a cost profile of about £500 expenditure, you know, typical type event thing, then I don't think we'd be looking for, to cover that cost.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's absolutely fine. Thanks.
And also, you know, if you have the chargeable events, then you have some advantages. One advantage is the attendance levels are very good. If 29 people register for the event, all 29 will turn up. But if you have the free events, then 100 people will register and possibly 40 to 50 people will turn up. You know? So in terms of your efforts to organize the refreshments, etc., for 100 for the larger registered number can go wrong as compared to the chargeable event. That's one advantage you will enjoy. The second advantage you as a branch or specialist group will enjoy is the potential surplus, which you can use in the subsequent 2 years as the rollover funding. Okay, so that's again for the branch or specialist group to decide. But these are all the provisions available, and you can decide as to how you want to do it.
So you can retain the income. So if we actually make a nice little profit on an event, then we can maintain that for our own use for whatever. For
next 2 years, not in the year that you have generated that money, but in the subsequent 2 years, you can use that fund.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So that's known as rollover funding. Okay. So any questions on this Excel sheet that I'm using? I'll go on to the next part. Thank you.
Ram, there is another question actually that's come up, is if you're running a joint event with another SG, does only one group submit the budget for it?
Well, it's the decision between the two or the joint event organizers. If 4 or 5 groups are coming together, then they can make that decision who should be submitting the budget for that. Or if it is the event is being organized after the budget allocation is done, then they can instruct the head office as to how much money they are contributing towards the event, and head office will take care of that.
Yeah, so you don't want to get double bubble effectively.
No, that's correct. That's
so just
correct.
be between
correct.
themselves.
Yes. So and it does happen. There was one event which I had attended in Central London a few years ago. They thought of organizing a joint event in November, which means the budget allocation for each branch and specialist group was done. But and five different branches and specialist groups came together for that event, and then each of them instructed the head office to allocate the agreed amount for that event. Okay. It was a free event, but this is how it happened in real sense. Okay. But if the event is known beforehand, then yes, you can come together and decide as to who should be submitting the project, the budget bid. Only one should submit it in that case. Thank you. So let me go back to my slides. So you can get more information about the funding budget from the portal. The link is provided here, and also there are strategy resources, the one which I clicked and I started showing you the details. So, and we'll be sharing this presentation with all of you after this event, so you can refer anytime. So this demo we have seen, and that is everything from my side as far as presentation is concerned. Happy to answer questions.
Right, there's a question from Margaret about speaker gifts. So speaker gifts get paid centrally still.
Yeah.
I checked, and that will apply right through the next year, so we don't have to put it on our budgets.
No.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Great.
And we've got Charlie asking another question there.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi, yeah, thanks. So if I understand correctly, John presented what effectively is a planning document, which is now which is brand new, which is great, but it requests some figures. I think, John, from and it was only on screen for a while, but I think it requests some figures. So I'm guessing there's a job to do to tie up the numbers in that document with the numbers in the actual budget submission.
Yeah, so in the cover sheet, we're just looking for the overall total income and overall total expenditure, just as a top level view.
And so is that just for the year then?
And sorry, I missed that bit. It was a bit cut up on me.
I said, is that for the year? The other document was only up briefly. So
yeah,
I'm just wondering, in terms of I mean, obviously, if it's just a top level number of what the expenditures for the whole year,
yeah,
then that's quite straightforward. But I just wonder, is there then a value in having numbers on both if it's only that level of detail?
Yeah, so really it's just to give us a kind of top level view. So when we have the first look, that we've kind of got a general view of it, and then when we deep dive, if we need to look at if there are some wild numbers in there, we need to take a deep dive, very different to previous years' finances, and we can then kind of go into the individual allocations or indicate individual.
But both are being submitted at the same time, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I accept that the front sheet is brand new, whereas the budget pack is quite similar to previous years. I mean, obviously the forms are a bit different, but the principles, you submit your budget at a more granular level.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether or not there's any plans for the future to kind of make it. I mean, this year's obviously new; it's a new thing, so see how it goes, I guess. But to tie the two things together.
Yeah, I think they could be. I think they definitely could be a bit neater and populating information without having to complete it twice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, I don't think if it's just top level numbers, I don't think it's such a concern, is it? But if you're allocating an expenditure against the 4 sections and so on, then that's a different matter, I guess.
Yeah, we're not looking for that level of.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a look through some of the additional questions there. So a couple of people here just thanking you, Ram, for kind of taking the time to run through these budgets. Margaret Ross has just asked, but we again just make sure that all this information is easily available for our treasurers. So make sure we put it on, as we have already, on the volunteer portal, base camps, and so on. So it's easily accessible if you haven't maybe got the email or so on. Peter Crouch has asked about SFRs and sponsorship funding requests. Will expenditures against these actually appear in the monthly group accounts? So that's really that last year we moved to a process whereby sponsorships are managed kind of centrally, that budget, and you need to submit an SFR, a sponsorship form to get access to that funds.
Yes, I understand that because we've gone through that process here in Birmingham. But what I was referring to was the fact that when we get our monthly accounts of the branch expenditure, there's no sign of any of the expenditures that are done against SFRs or sponsorship requests, which means we don't know if they've gone through or not.
Okay. So yeah, so we do manage those pots differently, so that we're not able to kind of show that expenditure on the individual member group accounts. I think the best way of finding that out would be to work with your group's coordinator. So if you've got some expenditure and you're wanting to know whether it's been spent or not against the SFR, then your coordinator can look at our supplementary funding budget to see if it's been withdrawn.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.